Well, there's no problem. If you had a gun, shoot him in the head.
All right, welcome to another episode of Shoot Me Straight with Eddie and Dave. Today, we are honored to have Ryan Blackwell in the studio. I met Ryan a couple weeks ago at my son's wrestling meet in Pensacola, and the wrestling meet was actually named after Ryan Blackwell, and I had no idea of his story. Just to give you guys a quick background, Ryan enlisted in the Navy July 2017, spent 2 years in the Navy until he was medically retired in 2020 due to training-related injuries. While he was in the Navy, he earned the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal for Heroism and a Purple Heart. On December 6, 2019, Ryan sustained 6 gunshot wounds during the terrorist attack aboard Naval Air Station Pensacola, which claimed the lives of 3 individuals and wounded 8 others. Ryan, honestly, it is an honor to have you in this studio and to be able to tell your story. I think people are going to get a lot out of it. So we'll start from the beginning here. Just tell us about your childhood, where you were born, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Appreciate you guys. I'm born in Virginia, military family. So Chesapeake, Virginia was home for me for maybe 6 months. My dad did a lot of training and all that. He had us moving around. I ended up growing up in North Carolina, though, eastern North Carolina. So a lot of moving around until the age of 5. Then in 1998, we arrived in North Carolina, and that's where I grow up at, go through the school systems there. Came from the military family, so a lot of order and discipline in the household, a lot of structure, and but we still had fun. We were kids, we still had fun. And then, my dad deployed a lot, came home, so I always had that kind of growing up, and I ended up wrestling. We started getting into wrestling, and I won 2 state titles in high school, and then I got a college scholarship to wrestle at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke, which is like right below Fort Bragg, North Carolina, South Carolina state line. Wrestled there for 5 years, and graduated with my bachelor's degree in exercise physiology, and that's kind of like led me up to like in my 20s now what I'm going to do with my life,
Yeah. What did your dad do in the Navy?
So my dad, he was a FMF corpsman, so he retired as a chief, did 22 years of service. He was always greenside, so we were around the Marines my whole life, so I was pretty much raised by the Marine Corps. Like when we'd go to the hunting camp or we would do anything, it's always Marines. And even with my story, you'll see how the Marines have always had my back since I was little. I mean, to present day through that situation too. I was presented in December. But yeah, my dad, he was a great influence on me, made sure he's telling me, Ryan, you're one of them guys that's always got to have something going on, keep you out of trouble. I can't just be wandering around. Like I always gotta have something going on to keep me out of trouble. And that was something going on with wrestling. So like once I started wrestling, I was like, that was it. I mean, he helped train me up, and that's what helped me get the success. And even like I played other sports, and I think I credit that to like my mindset of building a competitive mind at an early age. You kind of start getting this callous mindset where you like to compete, you like to win, you like to like not fail, but if you do fail, you learn how to overcome it, and it starts teaching the adversity side of the things. And that's kind of where really the foundation of who Ryan Blackwell was like built around sports in the military, but it was like my dad as my role model, and then coaches and all that as I kind of grew through the ranks of wrestling in college and all that. So
Nice. And so you ended up in, you said Pembroke?
Yes, UNC Pembroke, a Division II school in North Carolina. So I wrestled there for 5 years. I ended up, I didn't do anything really on the athletic side of the house. I had a training partner that ended up being a 2-time national champ. But it was like I always showed up every day giving my hardest. I wanted to be the hardest worker in the room. So one thing I could control was my attitude and my effort. So when I showed up, I was like, I'm just going to outwork everybody. And, if the results don't speak for themselves, then it just is what it is. I'm going to work hard. And I did that for 5 years, and like some of the best advice, I guess, what made me like stay like headstrong on wrestling all through college, because the first year was rough, was like, if you go through 5 years of this, it'll make a man out of you. And that's something that just always rang in my head. I was like, all right, I go through 5 years of this, it's going to make a man out of me, and then it's going to push me to my limits and, make a better version of who Ryan Blackwell is. And it's just going to kind of keep building this. And I was always like, I wanted to be mentally tough. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to be mentally tough. How do you get mentally tough? You got to do things you don't want to do.
Yep.
And that was one of the things college wrestling is like I love training, I love competing, I loved all that, but there's a lot of times you don't want to do stuff. I mean, I could barely walk up and down stairs, my legs are so tired, but it's like, hey, I still got 3 pounds to get off, or I still got this workout to do, right? So it kind of kept building that mindset for me. And yeah, so I'm really thankful for that life experience in general, regardless of like the accolades on the athletic side. I was a 2-time academic All-American, so it just means I kept my GPA up and had a good win-loss record, and was a good asset to the program, and yeah, so that had really kind of shaped me as far as like the young man I was. I went in there as a young boy, left as a young man, but I still had more, to learn. I feel like I had more to give, right? And that's kind of what led me to the Navy. There was like a gap between me graduating with my degree and then like when I joined the Navy, because I joined the Navy a little bit later. I was 25 when I joined up, and I graduated, moved to Myrtle Beach, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna get a gig with my degree, like exercise physiology. So I'm working at a resort, and I was doing like the programs is like activities programs. So when they come in, you guys book a week vacation, you're gonna want something to do. I gotcha, you know what I mean? Like, I gotcha. So it was a glorified, like, big old adult party kind of gig, you know what I mean? But it was kind of cool, and I still got to do some, like, I did, like, water aerobics with, like, all the old people in the pool. So it was like, I was getting paid, so it was cool. And then I was like, you know what? I'm kind of done with this. It was like, it went to, like, my 6-month, like, review, and I got, like, a 20-cent raise, and I was like, all right, corporate America is just not for me. I was like, this has, like, a glass ceiling that's, like, impenetrable, you know? So then I call my mom, and I'm just complaining, and she's like, what about the Navy? You talk about the Navy, this and that, your dad. And I'm like, well, if I'm joining the Navy, like, I'm doing this for real. Like, I just know, like, feel like I was a high level athlete. You don't really, after college, you got some international wrestling, but there's not really like professional wrestling. You know what I mean? So like most of your collegiate wrestlers are like at the top of their game. And then you got those that go international or whatnot that really level it up. But for the most part, I feel like, all right, I'm a pretty elite athlete. I'm in good shape. I'm going to go looking up the Navy, and they have this thing called the Warrior Challenge Program. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna fast track this guy. I was like, 'cause I'm not gonna go OCS. I was like, I need some monies. I feel like I have a purpose to do more. I want to find a better, side of myself. Then you start thinking like, your why. You know what I mean? Like, why am I doing this? And then like you come up with some BS reason why you're doing something, but that always changes. Sometimes you have some concrete. I have a concrete thing now, but at the time that was not concrete. You know what I mean? It wasn't concrete enough for me. So it was like, but a sense of purpose and giving back is like kind of what like compelled me. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this Warrior Challenge program. I go in the Navy. They tell me like all these like swim, run, everything, right? All the PST stuff you do. And I'm like, all right. I went to the Y. I swam down and back, and I was gassed. I was like, oh, man. I was like, I got to start swimming. You know what I mean? I got to get better in the water. How do I get better in the water? I was like, I'm talking to these recruiters, and they hooked me up with one of my buddies, Tyler, who's still in the Navy now, and he's like, he's training too. And I was like, all right, well, I need to learn this swim stroke. I was like, can you tell him to like meet me at the Y so I can learn this swim stroke? I was like, 'cause I need to get better in the water. I was like, this ain't working. And so he does, and he's like, hey, man, I got a gig for you. If you want to get good on the water, you can come be an ocean lifeguard with me. He's like, we pay about $600 a week. And he's like, and I was like, all right. So I went up to work, put in a 2-week notice, and I was like, all right, I'm going to be an ocean lifeguard. I'm going to learn some first aid. I'm going to learn how to, like, swim in the open water. I'm going to learn all this stuff. And it still doesn't change your mind in the water, though. You might be a little bit more efficient, but you still got arousal control when you're dealing with this stuff. So I ended up getting like whatever I needed my scores, right? I got like the NSW contract where it's with the Warrior Challenge program, you get one fair shot, to go out there and see if you're built to be a war fighter, right? And that's what I had my mind set on. I graduated boot camp, went through the prep cycle, went out to Coronado, California, and I DOR'd from the pipeline. I dropped.
So did you choose the Navy? Was that because your dad was in the Navy? Did it have a big influence on you?
It did, and it had a skewed influence too because he was part of the Marines Navy. You know what I mean?
So he was basically a Marine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying he was a Marine, but I have a similar experience where I was a corpsman.
Yeah.
FMF corpsman for 5 years. My first 5 years in the military, and what I learned, is like, you're in the Navy, but once you're with the Marines, you're pretty much one of them.
Yeah. And that's I always tell people that too. I had like a skewed look on the Navy because haze, gray, and underway is a thing with the Navy. You know, that means you're in a boat and you're at the needs of them and you kind of do what they want. But like with the Marines, my dad was never on a ship.
Wait. How help me understand that?
All right, so like my dad
is gray.
Haze, gray, and underway. It's a saying they say like when you get stuck, like you're on a
Yep.
ship and you're gonna be setting sail, and that's just what you do. And if you're like me, a low guy on the totem pole, you're gonna be at whatever the Navy wants you to do, right? Or even the Navy in general, because they deal with boats, you know, or the planes too, but really like ships. So my dad was never on a ship though, because he was always with the Marines. So he was always in the desert, always had the desert camis. I mean, he never really, I mean, they wore the dungarees every now and again, you know, when they had to.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it said U.S. Navy, but it was like Marine Corps, digis and all that, camis. And so, yeah. So
And the
joining.
Warrior Challenge, you said, is a way to fast track?
And not necessarily. So I guess like back in the day when you'd want to go through a special program, you had to have a rate, and then you could put in to go through the program. Where now you can go in with a contract saying that you can report to this program. However, if you don't complete it, there's no rate to fall back on. You go through the needs of the Navy,
which is a huge risk that you're taking. So if you join the Navy and you want to go to BUD/S, so when I joined back in '99, if you had to have a rate, so I had to go to Corps school first. So that was my rate. I was a corpsman. So therefore, you have a job, and that's how you could get to go to BUD/S. All right, you couldn't just go undesignated. They switched that, and I don't know what year when they switched that, but it was basically to make it. They were trying to grow the numbers in the teams and trying to get more guys to come and pass through. So they pretty much made this. What's it called? The
Warrior Challenge. It's
Warrior
like
Challenge.
for all the special programs that the Navy has to offer, and there's different like thresholds that you have to meet, like the bare minimum to be able to, get the billet to go out there.
So
and your
basically,
goal was to go to BUD/S?
My goal is I wanted to go. I wanted to pretty much do what my dad was doing. You know what I mean? But I want to do it on steroids. I want to do it on the big boy level, where like you're going out there and you're riding boats, you're swimming in, or you're doing whatever, you know. But at some point, you know, during my training, my why didn't have a foundation to hold enough weight to propel me through that. Is what I'm saying, and my own reason. If you want it, there's not really an excuse to be made. It didn't happen for me, you know. But like, it's almost like it had to go like that for this next part to happen, because like I was needed elsewhere. So if you look at like divine intervention or like, you know, God's plan, like we force things that we want to have happen, and sometimes they're not supposed to happen. Yep. So no matter how hard you push for it, it ain't gonna happen, you know. And I'm one of them people. I don't like to waste time. So like if it's like or waste anybody else's time too, you know what I mean? So if my mind's made up, I've always said I never half step. I'm either all the way in or I'm all the way out. So like you're not gonna find me like in between on anything, and that's for good and for bad. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that was it was okay though, you know what I mean? It is what it is. Like I'm going through this sheet of like what the rates I can pick are, you know, and it's like I many good options, and then I saw like Pensacola, Florida, and I'm like calling my dad. I'm like, yo, like, he's like, you know, they got this, and it was air crew, and then it was like rescue swimmer or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was able to like get down here for Pensacola, Florida. But I was like banged up, like, but I like wrestling in college, I was never 100%. Wrestling in high school, I was never 100%. I was always like 75. Like I won a state title my senior year with a broken wrist. I broke my wrist and was able to get through it and all that. So it was like, kind of like, okay, this is normal to feel uncomfortable a little bit. You know, you go to the gym, you work hard. So like when I came to Pensacola, I'm like doing their PT stuff, and then they had me go through a flight physical, and I couldn't pass the flight physical because I couldn't move my hand because it was like all swollen, and I guess wear and tear over like the first 6 months of my naval experience with a lot of the PTing that I was doing and whatnot. It my scaphoid bone had just splintered in my hand, and it went like into my thumb. It was like kind of weird. So they had to do like a fusion on my wrist. So it pretty much like now they just dropped me from another program. So I'm like done at this point. You know, I'm either going undesed or something, because I was in California for a program, then I came to Florida for a program, but I could never start it because I couldn't pass the flight physical. And then they did a wrist fusion on me, which made made it a disqualifying factor because of my hand was fused, and so I went through got on like this limited duty.
Disqualifying factor for
I'm gonna say an aviation side of the house because
Okay.
they put me on like airman. They changed. I was like a seaman Blackwell. They changed me over to airman, right?
Okay.
And then I'm just gonna say being where I was at and that I had already kind of had 2 uncompleted pipelines in a sense, right? Is that I was unfit for the Navy because I had a wrist fusion, and they started the med board process, and then I go on convalescent leave for 2 months to get my, go through all the wrist stuff and everything. When I come back in, they stashed me, which means they place you in a position because I have no rate. I'm unrated. I'm 26 at this time or whatever. I'm in E3. I got that out of boot camp because I had a college degree. So
Yeah.
I had this E3 my whole life, and so they placed me in it's called the International Military Training Office. So then that's where I end up being like placed at, and I interacted with all the NATO flight students, rescue swimmer students, and even people that weren't part of NATO, Saudis and other countries that we had come through our pipeline.
What was your specific task at that time, like being the liaison?
So the structure of the office was that there was like a GS position in there, and then there was a enlisted or I enlisted like an officer, like a personnel in there, which was a Marine Corps captain is who was in my office, and then it was just like people that were either not sat for anthro for like the flight stuff, you know what I mean, or like BMI stuff, or so it's people that weren't actively going through class or through a pipeline. You just get stashed. So it was a revolving door of the office. So all I did was like when any foreign student would come in, I'd like have to scan their passport, make copies, do a lot of admin work, and then it's like take them to go get a cell phone, go pick them up at the airport. Like pretty much you're just like driving them around
Like a babysitter.
Exactly, and that was like what I did. I did that like the whole time, and I like most of the time I just sat there, like I really just sat there because I wasn't allowed to leave. So it was just like, all right, I'm just gonna just sit here all day, and that was like it was cool in a sense too. Like I was like, oh, I got a chill job, and I'm talking with all these internationals. I'm gonna just learn a little bit about their culture, and I'm a pretty like charismatic kind of person, so I can appeal to some people and like just getting to know like what do you do at your house, you know what I mean, like what's your culture like over there, just trying to make these dudes feel at home. But I also knew like that environment that I was in that office, like I did not like working there. You know what I mean? It wasn't like fun. Like I joined the Navy for a reason, and now like you guys treat me like I'm 18, you know what I mean, I'm 20. So like it was like I'm not I don't ever talk about myself, but it's like when you think like, I got a bachelor's degree, I wrestled in college for 5 years, I did all this. Like most of these officers that are in here are 21, they're right out the chute, like they don't really have any life experiences other than a little bit of OCS, but or whatever they went through. So it was kind of weird because that building I was in was all officers, and I'm enlisted, right? And I'm an unrated enlisted guy, so I'm like really at the bottom
of the barrel.
Oh,
yeah.
It was like the analogy was like I'm a mushroom, right? You're in the dark and then you're getting shitted on. Like that's pretty much like how it went, But
I think that's for the listeners out there, when we talked about the risk of going to buds undesignated, I mean this is what happens if you either quit or you get hurt, and you can't make it through buds. You pretty much get sent to the needs of the Navy. And I can't imagine like the frustration level, especially hearing you talk about it. You've already accomplished so much by the time you were 26, and then now you're sitting in an office with a bunch of officers. I mean, that had to be really hard, mentally.
Yeah, and I think it's like when we talk about life, right? Like, and like I said, I wanted to, like, I was always like the one to be mentally tough, right? So this was a thing that like I learned patience because like Navy, it's a hurry up and wait process anyways. And I learned a lot of patience, which pays dividends for me now when I do coaching these little kids and stuff, right? When we get into that. But
what I love about you saying, what you said earlier, you were like, hey, one of the things what I could control was attitude and effort.
Yeah.
And like you're sitting in there, right? It's the exact opposite of what you want to do. It's almost like it's like me if I had to work in a cubicle. I would do it if I had to, right? But like, man, I would feel like a caged animal in a sense. And it's like you sat there and you went, you know what? I'm gonna make the best of it. I'm gonna learn their culture. Like,
yeah, I mean, it passed time too, because like I knew how to do everything. So I was like, all right, I knock all this stuff out, done deal. Ain't no more work to do. Oh, still got to sit, you know. So it was just kind of like, that's how I like to just like, you know, get it done where you're working in like it's just like it's a training command too, right? So it's not like anything that's forward operating, anything that's deploying anytime soon. Like these guys it's pretty much like boot camp for officers once they get out, right? Because they're going through their schoolhouse is what it is. They're learning like that. Where I was at is the first step to flying, right? You go through all of the academic portion, which is designed to weed all these guys out, right? And then if you fail X amount of tests, you're done or whatever, right? So it's kind of just like a whole nother program that's designed to weed out those that think they want to be there and those that actually want to be there, you know. And
this led up to December 6th.
Yeah, so that's how I got into that building where all this stuff happened, and then that's kind of how I got to be around the Saudis, right? When you think like how does an unrated airman get stuck in an officer building at a flight school, you know what I mean, working with international students? Like I don't have any. I didn't, you know, my uniform was pretty bare. I got an honor recruit, and I got the, you know, the national, you know, defense ribbon. Like I got, like that was what I was sporting. I didn't, you know, it has 3 green stripes on my sleeve.
Fruit salad, yeah.
Oh yeah, I was. It wasn't too much to look at, you know. But yeah. So that was that's pretty much, I guess, the forefront of, I guess, how I was there, right? And even with this guy, like when he checked in, that ended up being the shooter. I remember him, you know what I mean, like coming, because they mustered with us. And Friday was a thing where every Friday they'd come in, they'd muster, which means they'd meet, and they would we'd take like attendance and do like a tally. And they had a window to come in, whether it was from, you know, like 0600 to 0700 or 07 to 08 or something like that, right? It was their window of opportunity to come in, you check in, all right, haircut, shave, Monday, you know, because they were always unsat. Like, you know what I mean, unsatisfactory.
Yeah, were the Saudis or any other international students or whatever they were treated the same as like the Americans that were coming in, like as far as disciplinary or just the standards, like showing up on time?
Yeah, and the right uniform.
Yeah.
So we had guys walking around the command that had slides on, you know what I mean? And Saudis that had like the slippers that you pipe it on, like when you do jiu-jitsu and you get off the mat, right? You like put your slides on, like in their uniform with slides on, you know, or they'd have like them Hanes zip-up jackets, right? He'd have one of them on, you know, over their uniforms. Like you'd see these guys doing like pretty much. Now this is Saudis, right? I'm talking about the Saudis, right? Because there's a lot of them over there. But as far as like the other countries, like most of them are pretty squared away, you know, as far as like the NATOs, or like we had some Jamaicans that came for rescue swimmer, or like some guys from Malta, like all those dudes were squared away, you know, within reason, you know what I mean? Because when they got there, they went to their pipeline. But the Saudis were always a thing where they have like a program before the program. So then they come in, they go through like whatever. I don't know the ins and outs because that wasn't really like my job role, but I know like a lot of them, like you'd fail a test, right, or something, or cheating, and then like some of them would get a second try or a third try, and then others would get sent.
That's because, so from my experience, obviously, when I was an instructor at Buds for a while, we'd have some Saudi students come through. I think I had a Saudi student in my Buds class, or the Buds class after me. And so what I found out when I was an instructor is these other countries pay a lot of money to send, you know, these individuals here to these specialty schools. So the way it was explained to me is the Saudis they give them a list of schools, like, hey, pick which one you want to go to. And in this instance, this one Saudi, he wanted to leave Buds. He did not want anything to do with it. So I asked him, I was like, why did you come here? You know, if you don't want to be here. And he's like, I had no idea what this was. He's like, I picked this school because there is a Saudi community in La Jolla, and I would be near family. He's like, but I had no clue what it was until I showed up. And then next thing you know, he's doing log PT, getting wet and getting the shit kicked out of him. And they really have no other option but to pass. So I can tell you, like, the foreign national students that come through Buds, or I imagine it's in any other military school, they're pretty much pushed through, because of money, because the money was paid. Yeah.
Interesting.
Sorry, went off on a tangent.
No. Yeah. That's like he explained it, but that's why he's the chief. You know, so that's just stick it to the chief. He knows. But
So
Yeah.
you met the shooter when he came in? Like, you remember him?
Yeah, I remember like I said, because there was like my office, and right next was like a study classroom. So like if they weren't classed up, they would just study, right?
Okay.
And they'd go in there and they'd do whatever, and I'd pop in. Life sucked for them too, so I'd go in there and try to make joy of it. But I mean, it was it's not cool, but like I was thinking this like way before this ever happened. But like the climate of like that office was like Saudis don't really like females telling them what to do. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of created like a situation. And I just remember saying like, she gonna get us killed. Like I just what I remember saying was like, she gonna get us killed. Like the lady that was working in there, I was like, this ain't going. Like you just think about it. You know what I mean? I didn't think it was gonna happen. Like I put into existence, but it was just like stuff I was seeing was just like how like yelling at these dudes or this or that. Like I just didn't want no part of it. You know what I mean? I didn't join the Navy for this stuff. Like I just didn't want no part of that. I was like I'll go pick weeds out of the sidewalk. You know what I mean? Like I don't want no part of this. So it was just kind of like no reason, no excuse. They can come up with 50 million why this dude did it. Like we already know why. You know what I mean? For a hatred of Western civilization is why. But it just didn't help. You know what I'm saying? So that was like when I'd go next door, I'd holler at the guys and say what's up, and like they'd be doing their Arabic and whatever, and then I'd say, hey, make sure you're speaking English, coming down the hall, you know what I mean, or they're right next door, so I'd try to look out for them because it made my job easier if I didn't have to stay there because they had to stay for the captain to get back or for somebody to show up so they can get disciplined or whatever, like, because I still had to stay. So, like, if they had to stay, I had to stay, and I'm not trying to stay. So it's just like, I got stuff to do. Like, that's whenever I had, with that free time, that's why I started volunteering with the wrestling community in Gulf Breeze, and that's kind of what led me into a world that I never would have thought, like opening that door, you know what I mean? And that's a whole story we can get to here in a minute too. But it just helped me pass time. I volunteered at the high school and I volunteered with the youth program that they had, and I only did it for 2 months. And then come December, like the shooting happened, right?
Yeah, December 6th, right?
December 6th, yeah.
2019, so like a little over 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I guess a pre-story before we get to that is like, I met my wife here. So when I got here, that's half the reason, like, I wanted to stay too, right? I met her. I liked the area. And, like, we ended up getting married. Like, I got here in, like, 2018. We got married 2019. And in March.
Oh, wow.
And I got
just married.
Just married, right? And so we got married in March. And she was the influence to me getting involved with the wrestling too. Like, so I was like, hey, there's a wrestling program here. I got like some free time. I just, I need my outlet back. Wrestling was just like my safety net, like where I felt good. It was kind of my world. And so, I'm pretty sure the high school I went to has one. So we went, lined that all up, and there we go. So we got married in March, started volunteering 2 months with the high school. And then December 6th, 2019 is like, I call it my live day. You know what I mean? It's crazy. A lot of us don't have live days. You know what I mean? You got a birthday. But like this was one that kind of, it just changed me as a person, my perspective, like just the way I view life, just being humbled and blessed and fortunate, and like having a belief in a higher hand and like all that stuff. It really kind of resonated throughout me. And it was like my why came to, it really showed up for me then. Like I found my why. A lot of people would never find their why, and I thought I had one. Like I said, you come up with this BS reason why you're doing something or this or that, and sometimes it works. You know what I mean? Like, but other times it kind of goes away. It's like a fad.
Yeah. What was that morning like?
So that morning, I arrived. It was like 05:30. I was always first one in there. You walked in through the side door. It was like the north entrance of the building. And the way this building's situated, it's east-west, front door, back door, but it's like the north-south is kind of how it's sitting on base over there. So the quarter deck is like off that east entrance, right? Yeah. But the guy came in through the north entrance. So I'm sitting in, I came in through that entrance, and like hit the lights for the hallway, turn it on, right? And I'm sitting in my office, and couple my office mates end up showing up. They got there probably about 6 or so, and then some Saudis started calling in. They're supposed to muster, and they're like, we got a flight, got a test, whatever. And then a couple show up, and then more phone calls coming in, and it's just like a regular Friday, like. So my plan that Friday was actually to leave early, like around noon. I was gonna go catch the high school tournament that was actually down this way, the South Walton tournament. So that was what I was gonna go to. I was gonna like knock out this morning duty, go do that, right? So like I'm checking all these guys in. Everybody's present in my office. I have the ensign, it's a female ensign sitting in front of me. I'm sitting behind like this L-shaped desk, brick wall behind me. It's like a wall, like 16 by 16 foot office, little glass panel door in the front, and a 2 L-shaped desk in the back that run along the wall, then come across the front. And so I'm sitting at the one desk on like the north wall, and then the female, she's sitting right in front of me. The ensign is at this like circle, like conference table. And then there's like 2 couches to the left of me that are like right by the door, little office chairs. And that's where the other airman that was in the office was sitting. So these 2 Saudis come in, check in, they leave. And well, actually, while they're there, this Saudi walked by, looks in, smiles. I said, "What's up?" Smiles at me and just keeps it moving. Green flight suit, helmet bag in his hand, and just carries on, right? And these 2 leave.
Did you think about anything? Like,
didn't think anything. The guy just said, good morning, what's up? And then it was just,
just no normal day.
Normal day. And then the one more Saudi comes in, and then he leaves. And then all of a sudden, I hear a gunshot go off. And I'm just like sitting there, and I'm like on the computer. I'm drinking coffee. I've got the news on TV. We're just like typical admin stuff, right?
Yep.
And the quarterdeck's like I said, it's off that east entrance, so it's only like 20 yards from my office. Like if you could count the doors, it's probably like 5 or 6 doors down. And I guess he went down to the quarterdeck, and he ended up he killed 3 service members down there, right? And I heard the gunshot go off, and then I heard these guys screaming and fighting. You know what I mean? I hear it now. It's just something that don't leave you, because it's like a grown man crying for his mom. You know what I mean? When you think about it, it's some heavy stuff. So it was like you start hearing that, and it was like I didn't know what to do, but I had to do something. You know what I mean? Like I was just like, I don't have no weapons, I don't have nothing. Like active shooter, like holy smokes, And then something just told me he's gonna come to our office. You know what I mean? It was just I had a feeling. So I jumped up, and everybody had rose up in the office too. And I told the guy that by the door, I said, secure the door, cut the lights, turn off the TV, take cover behind the desk. And he went to the desk that was on that south wall, that little L-shaped desk. And I had the female, I said, take cover behind me, call 911, report active shooter. And then I got my phone out, I called my Marine Corps captain. And I said, sir, there's a active shooter, don't enter the building. Because I knew like his schedule, what time he usually comes in, kind of like how the day starts going. And he just said, what do you mean? I was like, sir, active shooter, don't come in. He said get out of the building. And as soon as he said that, it was a glass pane door, so like it's like half wood on the bottom and glass going up. The gunman at the time was on the other side of the door. He shot out the glass panel, and he shot me and hit me right in my arm. And I was on the phone, so I dropped the call. And I just remember, like, when that happened, I just looked at it's just so fast when I describe it, but to me, it feels like time slowed down, like a lot. But, like, I just remember looking at my hand, and I was just like, I can't believe I just been shot. You know what I mean? That's like, I was like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe I just been shot. But then it was like, as soon as I was thinking that, I was already turning. Like, I rotated counterclockwise. And and I don't know if it's because I took one offside my ribs, so he might have spun me a little bit too. You know what I mean? With that bullet coming in, but I just rotated backwards. The girl was squatting behind me, kind of in a ball, and I didn't like lay on top of her. I was just crouching, and I was just like right in front of her. Mm-hmm. And he lit me up, like, and then I got hit 2 more times in my back. One came out the inside of my right thigh, and the other one came out my left hip, and my right calf and my left foot. And the one that ended up coming out of my thigh hit her in the calf. So it was just like, it was like a through and through on me and hit her in the calf, a little flesh wound. I just fell over. Like I fell over and started holding my head. And I was just like I just started like, I don't want to die. You know what I mean? You start thinking that stuff. Like, cause I just like literally just got like, it feels like
shots,
sucker punched. You know what I mean? Is almost what it felt like. You know what I mean? Like
I'd say so.
Yeah, like I'd like the dude just like he got me good, and I'm like falling out. Like I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Like holy shit, I don't know how to stop gunshot wounds. You know what I mean? I'm just like thinking like in my head, and I'm like, all right, calm down. And then it was like all right, I guess we're going to find out what happens. That like, I'm going through all this in my head. Like while I'm covering my head on the ground, I'm thinking like, I'm making up, like I didn't see the guy. So I'm like, all right, this dude's got like a rifle. He's all blacked out. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's my mind's making up this
Do you
stuff,
know
right?
like what kind of weapon he was using?
Glock 45 9mm.
Okay.
With the extended magazine. So he's carrying 14 rounds. He put 14 into my office, and I caught 6 of them. The other guy that was next to me caught 7. And he had a broken leg. But it was, he lived too. But like whenever I was like sitting there covering my head, I got like super comfortable. All of a sudden, like I was okay with like dying, you know, like I was like freaking out. And then all of a sudden, like I just got super peaceful. But then it was like I started getting coherent, and I could hear my phone. It was on the call, and it said Blackwell, Blackwell, Blackwell. And I could hear that. So I crawled to my phone, picked up my phone. I did a quick visual of the room, saw everybody. The girl, the ensign had mouthed to me, you know, I saw her calf, she had flesh wound, and the other guy was just screaming. And I remember I was like, shut the fuck up, dude. You know what I mean? You're going to get us killed. I was like, shut up, you know? And I'm like on the phone. I'm like, sir, we've all been hit. I'm going to get us out of here. I'll call you back. And I just like hung up, through the phone in my pocket. And then I didn't know where the dude was at. Like I knew we weren't getting shot no more. So I just jumped up and I just ran to the back window. And I remember, like, that's when I learned that my arm was, like, in bad shape. Like, I couldn't I had no feeling. It was like a hitting your funny bone, but it was, like, my whole arm. And it was, like, on fire. Like, it was just, like, my whole right arm. I'm right-hand dominant, you know. It just sucked. And so I got up. I ran to the window. And, like, in my head, I was telling myself, like, I'm fast enough. But, like, in the reality, I was thinking I'm about to get shot again. You know, like, that's just what I was thinking. I was like, but I'm already dying anyways. I'm already dying, you know. So, like, I'm giving this a shot. So, like, I jump up, I run to the window, I unlock the top of it, and there's, like, an AC unit. It's like a floor unit with, like, a hose that goes up to the window, and it, like, kind of vents out. And so, like, I unlocked the window, and I just, like, ripped that whole thing out with my left hand, and then the whole window came crashing down. It, like, just slid down. And, like, it was, like, old school, so, like, it was painted, so it only went up so far anyways. So, like, I couldn't get the window up, and there was, like, a little lip. So I couldn't get my fingers under it because my right hand wasn't working, right? So I'm like with my left hand trying to get this window up, and I started freaking out. I was like, I thought I was gonna get hit, you know. I'm like wasting too much time in front of this window, and so I just started yelling. I'm like, get up, help me with the window, get up. And then like the female gets up, and then the other guy with the broken leg, he hobbles over, and like the three of us are able to get this window up, and then I just like dive out the window, and it's like 7 foot, probably if like jumping over that window, landed in some bushes. It was nothing crazy. I dove out, landed in the bushes, and then there was the guy with the broken leg. We got him down to me, and then the female jumped out last. And then she said while she was on her way out, she heard the guy coming back to the office. So she went like a separate way than us. So once we got out, I saw 3 guys standing in front of like 110 yards. Like they were at this building across the street called the Navy Yard Eatery. So it's just like, or you can go get lunch or breakfast biscuits or something. It's a little hot bar kind of spot they got. So saw 3 dudes standing over there. The female, she takes off, so like we lose hers. Like she like I said, she saw a cop at the chapel or something like that. But like I didn't see any of that. I just saw dudes that were like 100 yards in front of me. And I just started yelling, like, active shooter, we've been hit, active shooter. And then, like, I run up to him, and then they're just like, they were like, holy smokes, you know? Like, I threw my right arm on my head when I started running. I threw this guy up on my shoulder, and, like, he's got a broken leg, and we just took off, like, running. And then when we get in, the kid just falls on the floor. Like, as soon as we get into this building, he just falls on the floor. And I'm like out of breath. Like, it's happened so fast. I'm just, like, out of breath. I'm like, yo, get it. It's all windows in this little lobby thing too. So I'm like, hey, we gotta get out of the lobby. I was like, secure this building. I said, like, let's push it back. I said, we gotta get out of the lobby. And I was like, but I need to catch my breath. And I was like, I gotta call my wife. You know, I wanted to call her, and I was like, Carly, like, I've been shot. I was like, I'm trying to get to a hospital. I just want to let you know I love you. Tell my parents I love them, and I'll be in touch, you know. And that's, like, pretty much as far as the conversation went. But I wanted to get that off, you know what I mean? And it was kind of like, I mean, it's just so crazy. This is happening on U.S. soil, so I have the chance to do something like that, you know what I mean? To call my wife and tell my last goodbyes and stuff like that. That's what I'm thinking. So get off the phone with her, and the office workers are starting to work on the kid, and they're like pushing wounds on it, towels on his wounds and all that. And I'm like walking, I'm like, call my captain back. I'm like, sir, like, where you at? I need a ride now. And he's like, I'm on my way. And then, like, I hung up with him, and then I'm, like, walking. I'm like, where's the back of this building at? I was like, I need to get out of here. Where's the back of the building? I was like, as I'm walking, like, everything goes black, like, my vision. But I'm standing, you know what I mean? But everything goes black, so, like, I'm bleeding out. And I thought I got hit twice. So I thought at my arm, and I thought my leg. I thought I had, like, a big hole in the back of my leg and my arm. I didn't know, like, any of the other things that I had wrong with me. So I the officer was like, sit down. So I was like, I sat down. I kicked my shoes up. And I started trying to, like, breathe. You know what I mean? I just kept trying to breathe. And it's like my vision started to come back a little bit, and I saw my bootlaces. And I said, get me a knife. I need a tourniquet. I said, I'm going to cut my laces out. I was just going to cut my bootlaces out and tie it around my arm or something. I thought my arm was what was causing the issue. I thought I got hit twice. I thought my arm was what was leaking real bad. And you know what I mean? That was just kind of, I didn't know it was everything else. And as soon as, like, I said that, it was like, nah, like, your belt. And I, like, had a rigger's belt on, and I used to get in trouble for wearing this belt because it didn't have the shiny face on it, you know what I mean? And I took that rigger's belt off, and I looped it around my arm, and I just pulled as tight as I could, and it ended up crushing my arm. But it brought so much, like, adrenaline back to me that I was just like, I was fired back up again, you know? And I was like, okay, now I'm probably on a limited window. You know, that's what I was saying. Now I'm probably on a limited window. Like, I need some help. And so I get back on the phone. I'm like, sir, where you at? In the office, people are like, you can't leave. And I'm like, watch me, I'm leaving. I was like, he's pulling up, and I'm telling him, like, hey, you can't go down this road. They got it blocked off. Got to come down the backside, and we'll be on the corner waiting for you. He comes up, pulls up in his personal vehicle, his little Toyota Tacoma. And I get the other guy. We come out the back of this building. We put him in the bed of the truck, or in the back seat of the truck. He's on the back seat, and I come around to the front. And we just start taking off through the base. And he calls 911. He says, I'm transporting 2 sailors up to the front. They're like, yeah, get up there. Ambulance will be up there waiting for you guys. Like, get up to the front. So, we're going everywhere, all over the base, get up to the front. And then once we get up there, it's like so standstill traffic. Like, this morning hour, everybody trying to get to work to begin with. But
yeah, you add the active shooter on top of that. I'm sure it was a mess.
It was a mess. And we get up there. I remember pulling up in his truck, and this deputy comes over, and my captain was like, my Marine Corps captain, right? Not the base captain, but he's like, where's it at? He's like, you guys gonna transport him? He's like, I'm gonna continue on in my truck. And they're like, no, wait, the ambulance 10 minutes out. So that means it's a 20-minute turnaround, 10 to get us and 10 to get back, Mm-hmm. And he's like, no. So he, like, gets out of his truck, and he starts, like, walking around, and then they get the other guy in the back seat out. Like, my captain gets the door open, and the sheriff comes over, and they put him in the bed of the truck. And I'm just walking around with my arm on top of my head, and I'm like, yeah, like, I need a ride. You know what I mean? Like, I need to get to a hospital now. I was like, I'm not going to make it. And then we're on the speakerphone with 911, and I'm telling her, I'm like, yo, you don't understand. I was like, I don't have time to wait for an ambulance. I was like, we got to go. And I'm just telling her, like, and that's when I got out of the car. And then, like, so they got him out, and I got out. I walk around to the back, and then, like, one of the service members that passed away was already up there. I saw him laying on the pavement. And that's when it was kind of like it was another reality to me. You know what I mean? And I was just like, I got to get to a hospital. I'd done everything I could do up to this point. Like, I got to the help. You know what I mean? Like, I need to get to hospital. And then, like, I'm just like, I'm running my mouth too. You know what I mean? Like, I was running my mouth, and this deputy comes up to me. I'm telling you, I was running my mouth, and I was MFing everybody up there. But it was like, the deputy came up with the Escambia County, and he said, you're not going to die on my watch. He said, get in the back of my cruiser. And so that was whenever I was like, okay, all right, like, we're rolling. So it's time to go. And I walk up to his cruiser, I open up the door, and then there's a cop sitting in the back seat. And he's shot in the leg, and his leg's just bleeding all over the back of the car. And there's no tourniquet, there's no stuffing in it, there's nothing going on. He's just wincing, sitting in the back of the car. So as soon as I get in, I saw it, and I just put my left elbow in his leg. And I was kind of laying on my left side anyway, so I just plugged his leg with my elbow. And I said, I was like, sir, you got to pull on my belt. I was like, you got to pull the belt around my arm, because I had to let go of the belt to plug his leg. I was like, sir, you got to pull this belt. You help me, I help you, And then that's what we did. I remember we're, like, driving And we're like getting ready to pass Navy Hospital. I'm like, turn left. He's like, nah. He's like, you're going to die if you go there.
Yeah.
He's like, nah. He's like, nah. And so we're like going down the road, and I'm like, all right, this thing got speakerphone. He's like, yeah. I was like, call my wife, tell her where I'm going. And she didn't answer. And then like it comes across the radio, we got him. And then that's when he turns back. He says, hey, we got him. And I said, was it a Saudi flight student? That's like just what went off in my head. And he said it was. And I said, I know who it was. It was the guy that walked by that morning, right, that looked in and smiled. So it's kind of like eerie when you start thinking about that. And so we're rolling all the way up to the hospital, and I end up calling my dad, like, right when I pulled in. So I remember it was I seen the Baptist, and I called him. So, like, I made all these calls throughout this whole duration, from the moment I called my captain from when this thing went down to, like, when I called my dad. And it 6:46 was, like, when I got shot. And 7:13 is when I arrived at the hospital. So 27 minutes was like the duration of time it took to get from like point A to point B, and figure out everything in between. And it was kind of like once I got to the hospital, I was riding this wave of adrenaline or, whatever my body dumped into me. And I guess got out of the car and I walked right in. I walked into the hospital. And they're telling me to lay down and stuff, and it was like a changeover. So they had extra nurses and extra doctors, which worked out for us. But it was still crazy. They were lined up with the stretchers when I got there, and I was the first one there. So, like, I got out, I walk in, I'm just, like, covered in blood, and they're just looking at me like, what the heck is wrong with this dude, And they're like, you got to lay down. I'm like, all right. At first I'm like, I got shot in the butt. You know what I mean? I felt like the back of my leg. I was like, I got shot in the butt. I can't lay down. They're like, no, you got to lay down. Laid down, and they, like, rolled me in the back and, put you on the metal table and just started, like, cutting all my clothes off and went through all, like, I thought I got hit twice, and then they started saying I got one here, and, and then it was just like, we need to put you through a CT scan, see how this thing's went. And, went and did that, and I guess come to find out, like, the guy was using ball rounds in that gun, the Glock 45, 9mm, and they ricocheted. It's like how that went. So my intestines got hit a little bit. So I was leaking on the inside, and so I ended up having a colostomy bag. But it was just kind of crazy how, like, that news was, like, brought to me. And it feels like this stuff all happened so quick. But I'm, like, sitting in ICU, and they like, all my clothes were in a bag, and my wife was like, all my bloody clothes, they put it in a bag. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, where's my wife at? You know what I mean? Like, she's texting me. Like, they rolled me back into ICU to wait for these results. So they had me, like, stable, but I was sitting there, and I was like, well, let me get my phone. I'm going to start, like, call my buddies or something. I was like, I just felt like I need to talk to everybody, and I was all right or whatnot. But, like, where's my wife at? They bring her back there, and they give her my clothes. All bloody, everything. Nice. And she's sitting in the lobby.
That did a lot good for her.
Oh, yeah. And then the FBI comes, and they're like, oh, you're not supposed to have that. You know what I mean? They take it back from her. But they, like, literally, if you're going into surgery, and they're like, oh, yeah, it's a nice outfit, we'll save it for you when you get out. Here you go. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty much how that went. So it was just kind of bizarre. Like, her first, she saw me, I was just, all covered head to toe in blood. Then she gets that, and it was just it was a lot. And then I started having my buddies kind of show up. I was supposed to go to the wrestling tournament, right? Remember I said, like, I was going to get it at 12. So I was like, oh, man, these dudes are waiting at Walmart for me. So I was like, before I go into surgery, let me call them real quick. So I called the high school, and I was like, hey, active shooter, I just got shot. I'm getting ready to go into surgery. Don't wait for me. I was like, y'all going to be late if you wait for me. And they were like, are you serious? I was like,
shit.
Yeah, I was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, dude. I was like, look it up. I was like, I'm literally about to go into surgery. And they were just like, oh my gosh, so whatever, get off. And then my one of my buddies, Kevin Lace, I met him through wrestling, coaching his son. And so I'm thinking, like, national emergency, you know what I mean? Like, who's one of the toughest guys I know out here is Kevin, you know what I mean? So I was like, I got to call Kevin. I was like, I got to tell Kevin what just happened. And he's like, dude, what? He's like, I'm on my way. And, and he's like, I'm telling him, and he's like, is there anything you need? I'm like, yeah, dude. It's like, I'm sitting up in this bed and I'm butt ass naked. I said, I need some clothes. And then he brought me a bunch of clothes. It was pretty cool. And then he showed up, and then it was just kind of cool. Just like being able to be like kind of mentored by him a little bit too, and like knowing like what he's done in his life and everything. It's that's motivational too. And then the fact that I'm like, at my bedside, I'm in ICU, like Kevin comes in there and he's like, man, it's tough being alone. You know what I mean? Because my, like, people were coming and going, and he was just telling me, he's like, oh, I think my wife was talking to my mom or something, but it was just like, he said, I'm gonna hang out with you for a little bit. He's like, it's tough being alone and all that. And I was just remember telling him, I was like, dude, I don't know why you're here. I was like, I'm not like, I was going through all this. I was like, I'm not like no operator. I'm not none of these team guys. I'm none of that. He said, nah. He's like, but I ain't no 2-time state champ either, is what he said to me. So it was kind of cool where we found like a common ground, and he's been kind of like, really pivotal as far as my recovery went, and just kind of helping me, just really anything that I need, just being there for me. But so I'm sitting there and I'm going through all these, like talking to all these people. Well, here comes the chaplain and the surgeon. And so I'm sitting there, I just get off my phone, and Carly's back in there, and they say, hey, we got to roll into emergency surgery now. He's like, results came back, your intestines been hit, they're leaking across your body, and you're going to have a colostomy bag. Don't know if it's forever. We don't know if it's temporary. We won't know until we go in there. I said, okay, what's a colostomy bag? And then they're like, it's when they divert your large intestine out of your stomach. That's going to be how you go to the bathroom. And, and here we go. And, you know what I mean? So they just prayed with me, and then we rolled in, and then I came out, and I woke up in the recovery ward. Well, I was in ICU a little bit. I actually had the Chiefs mess come visit me. It was pretty cool. So my dad's buddies were like Master Chiefs out this way. So he was able to call them up, and they all like rallied up and came and showed me some love. But yeah, it was rough. Like my median nerve got hit in my arm, so it like paralyzed like pretty much my whole hand except for my pinky and half of my ring finger. So it was like I had no use of my fingers for a little bit of time. And it was it was, and then it was like I said, 4 months. I ended up having that colostomy bag for, so that was just hurdles, from there, and then plus everything else you're doing with my hand was messed up. You have the colostomy bag, and my wife has to take care of me now. We had just got married in March. This happens in December. Oh, guess what? COVID shows up. You know what I mean? So now all of a sudden you can't even have somebody go to your doctor's appointment with you. So it just made it like really tough to, kind of get through all of it. But like I said, I've always been wanting to find ways to get myself mentally tougher, right? So this is just another way. You had to tap into my support system a little bit more. But yeah, and like, it's just crazy to think, you know what I mean? And it's like on US Soil 1, you know what I'm saying? And it's a guy that's in a flight suit for another country. And I guess during the middle of this like firefight, not even like firefight, it's like this guy's just like shooting. Like they said he looked like Michael Myers. I asked the SWAT team took him out. I said, what's this guy, what do he look like? Did he look like tactical? Like, what do he look like? He's like, nah, he was like Michael Myers, just like blank face walking down the hall just shooting, you know, and that's all he was doing. And then the SWAT team ended up, like, taking him out.
Did you so this active shooter, right? I know before we talked about, you'd always go in, talk to the Saudis, or, just try and be cool with them. Did you have, I wouldn't say like a relationship, but did you know this individual? Like, hey, you were cool, he was cool with you, you were cool with him?
I think like I wasn't really cool, like try to be friends with any of them.
No,
you know what I mean?
I'm
but
not saying,
like,
like,
no,
friendly,
but like as far as that guy, I do remember, like I can tell you in that classroom back right corner, that's where he was sitting at. Like I do remember that stuff,
Okay.
but it was never like I didn't like go above and beyond for him, or like I remember the guy probably being quiet or stuff like that too, But like all in all, it was nothing that like raised an alarm. But then you learn, so that's like the bulk of like this story, at least like what happened to me. But then you start learning, like as they start to investigate this thing, like, okay, how is that possible? The gun, how is the gun possible on base? How is a foreign national with a gun possible? And then they found out there was a loophole where you could have a hunting license as a foreign national and you could buy a gun, and he bought the gun from a pawn shop. And so then he had the gun in base housing since July. Right, and the shooting happens in December, and then they have it up to the point, like all this stuff they're going through this guy's phone. This is prior to like actually cracking that iPhone, like getting Apple or they had their FBI team crack it. But he was doing like these anti-jihadist stuff on like Twitter, right? And then like went to the 9/11 memorial, they said, and that was kind of like what they were trying to say is like during like the holidays he went home and got radicalized, but that wasn't the case. The more they kind of started peeling the layers of the onion back. The night before the shooting, he had a dinner party and it was they were watching like mass shootings, and that's all stuff that's been reported and everything. So it was like a lot of things that were like red flags for most people, right? Like just completely aren't red flags. And then they crack his phone, and they come to find out this guy had a manifesto, and it was dated to 2015 when he got radicalized. And
holy shit. So yeah, he'd been planning this for a while.
Yeah.
Or doing something like this.
And then they came over 19 years old, you know what I mean, and just does what he does. And it's just crazy to think of how much red tape there is with social media to begin with, you know what I mean, to see some stuff like that that's like blatantly like,
yeah,
you know what I mean. And then even outside of that, when you go through like, you can say the vetting process might not be, you know what I mean, or it is thorough. Maybe they say the vetting process is thorough, right? And you can your argument to that's going to be, well, after like this shooting, they like halted this training program or whatever. You can look this stuff up too, but they sent 12 Saudis back home. So in a flawed vetting process, that's gonna confirm that, right? That if there's one bad apple and you find 12 more, something's up. You know what I mean? But if it was like, oh, there's just one bad apple, the rest are good, there probably wouldn't have been 12 that you would send home. You know? So you start looking at things from that perspective. But I know like as much as it would like, I didn't really focus on this during my recovery. This is all like I've learned a lot of this knowledge like after I kind of recovered, because I didn't need this like getting into my head. Like I had other stuff I had to deal with. But like as I started like, okay, I want to learn how this was possible. I want to learn like kind of what happened, where this guy was going to the gun range at. You know what I mean? Like all this stuff. Like I've learned all that, you know, and not to say they knew. How they gonna know? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they don't know. But just different things, and it's just kind of like, all right, like there's a gun on base since July. You know what I mean? Like, and you guys getting mad at me for having a pocket knife. You know what I mean? Like, or having a rigger's belt on. You know, it's just kind of like the standard wasn't there, and it's like when these guys get here, I know from, like I said, it's from an E3 perspective, and they let their guard down around people with lower rank, you know what I mean? So you can start to see the inside of these guys a little bit, and you start seeing, like, it's like Rumspringer over here, you know what I mean? For them, like, there is no Allah that they're falling behind. Like, these guys were going, you know, like, partying. They'll tell you about it. You go in the classroom, they tell you about the drinking, they tell you about this stuff, you know, or whatever. So it was like they did what they wanted.
Yeah.
Essentially, they did what they wanted.
And they're like we talked about earlier, there is no standard for them. They're definitely treated differently. Because their country paid for them to come over here, and they paid our government for them to get the training.
So
like just civilian, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm the probably normal listener.
Yeah.
Right. Like so especially with Twitter, they have. I mean, he's posting radical stuff on Twitter. Has a hunting license. Has a gun. Right, like, and is on base there, and you're saying they're turning a blind eye to it because of the money.
I don't think they knew. You know what I'm saying?
Or they're not looking into it because they
like,
don't want to.
I don't even know.
It's not they're turning a blind eye to it. It's they are treated differently because their country is paying X amount of dollars, and I'm sure it's a lot.
Yeah.
So our government is not going to treat them the same way they treat us. You know what I mean? So it's like, we have the money. Just let them come and go as they please. And you don't want to, and I think there is that, you know, difference between, what am I going with? Difference between, you know, our morals and beliefs and their morals and beliefs, and we don't want to offend them in any way because they had already paid the money. So you're sort of walking on eggshells around them, you know, with how they're treated. Yeah. Which then obviously can result in something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was it's like the more like, I don't know. So all that stuff, like I said, I didn't like know a ton of this stuff because my dad was like, don't watch the news. You know, you don't need to be watching this stuff.
No.
Like you need to like not watch any of this stuff. And so it kind of like my recovery, we can talk about my recovery a little bit, right? Because that was like a pretty pivotal point in my life too, was that like I was in the hospital for a week. I was like, but I was trying to get out. Like anything I could do to get out, like I was trying to get out, you know, and I just didn't want to be there. It was crazy. I had like a military watch on my office or on my hospital room, but like at first I had nobody. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like there was reporters coming up. It was crazy. And then then they stuck like somebody there, and then there's like a Keiko, so it's a person that like contacts your family if you pass away or if something tragic like this happens. I was the Keiko for my own thing, pretty much. I ended up having a chief step up, and he heard about it and he came over. But like they took it as me calling my parents and calling Carly was good enough. And so the Navy never contacted my family and let them know what was going on. So my parents were on way to see me because I called them and told them I got shot, not because the Navy called them. Yeah. And the Navy still hasn't called them, you know. And then so I had this Chief Lewis. He showed up, put on his blues, and he was the Keiko for like all of us. You know, he heard like what was going on, like any chief would. He stepped up and did what he was supposed to do. You know, and so that was cool. But I was like I said, a week. I was like kind of like turned down all the interviews and all that, and it was just I wasn't trying to talk about any of this stuff, you know. And then I had one guy that like got some bogus interview off me because I just come out of surgery, and I thought it was one of my boys that was calling me, and I just kind of went on a tangent. But it was
some journalist or
but he didn't even print it right, so it wasn't even like
they're parasites. Yeah,
it was stupid. But my goal was I said I'm gonna walk out. I walked into this hospital, I'm going to walk out, is like what I told him. And this is 1 week after getting shot. It's like a Friday or something. Jeez. And that tournament was Saturday that Ryan Blackwell you went to. So that was the first one they did it. So that Friday before the tournament is when I was like, I'm walking out of this place. And so they're like, no, you need a wheelchair. I was like, no. I was like, walking. I'm like, no. I was like, I'm walking out. I walked in, I'm walking out. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, all right, we'll use a cane. I said, okay, I'll use a cane. And I was like, just tell me where I got to go. And they're like, all right, well, there's benches along the way. If you need to, take a seat. And like I just made a point. I was like, I'm gonna just like own this. And I had a lot of time to reflect. My hand was like on fire when I was in there. So talk about gunshot wounds. You know what I mean? Like if you get hit in like a nerve, it's like electrocuting yourself. You ever? But like hitting your funny bone at the same time. It's just like just like lit me up. And then it was they were trying to do the sensation, like so they had to touch gauze on my hand and stuff to try to get the sensation back, and it just like put me through the roof, like just a little bit of gauze just like touching my hand to try to get all that feeling back. It was crazy, but it was like they let me go. I walk out and make it all the way home. Then I had like a military escort home, and I had like a watch on my house. But this is where it gets good because I'm like, I'm always down for a good time too, and I'm like, when I feel sorry, so I was in the hospital, I scheduled a party at the house. I had like everybody come over, and so when I got home, we just do a rager at the house. Like my parents are in town, like it was just like I just got out of the hospital, we're all partying, and I got all these dudes like rotating shifts on my house for a watch, and then when they would get off their watch, they'd take their stuff off. They come and
join the party.
Yeah. It was pretty sick. I thought that was cool. It was a little bit of the camaraderie, you know what I mean? Because I was like, I didn't want it to feel like, I don't want to feel insensitive to any of it too, but I know it wasn't conducive to my recovery for me to sit there and go, woe is me.
You don't want to act like a victim.
No, like my thing, it was just like, holy shit, I can't believe I just pulled that off. You know what I mean? That's like a 0.1% chance that I had. Like I'm a sitting ducks, like shooting fish in a barrel, and you put 14 rounds into a small space. I mean, you're bound to catch a few of them, and they might not be good. You know, like I think about the one on my ribs. If I'm positioned different, I don't rotate. That's through the boiler room. I'm done. You know, like it's just little things like that. Or if I'm standing up and these things go through me another way, or you know, however that goes. But I just like. My mind like wouldn't shut off right when I got home, and so it was like I had to sleep in a medical chair, and I was like super paranoid. But it was weird because like I didn't die, you know what I mean? But it's like you come close to death, but then it's like everybody talks about you see this flash or you see this or that. Like I ain't seeing that, you know what I mean? Like am I like going the wrong way with stuff? You know what I mean? Like do I need to like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just like, all right, but I wasn't dead.
I need to change my ways.
Yeah, but I felt like I was pretty good. You know what I mean? I was like, but no, it was just a lot of overwhelming. Like I was just thankful, and then I'm like, okay, well, like. How did I do this? You know what I mean? How did I do this? I'm just up for like 2 months. I'm like in this chair, and I'm just like can't sleep and everything, and doctor's appointments, and you know the whiz guy. I guess, the wizard and all that stuff. And I'm just like,
Is a wizard psychologist?
oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
How'd your wife handle all this?
dude, it was tough. It was tough for her.
This is the first year of y'all's marriage. Like,
it was tough. Yeah.
set the
I mean,
tone.
yeah, it was anything after that, we're good, but like it was, she was my saving grace. You know what I
She
mean? Cause
just step up.
I needed her because I couldn't take care of myself. Like she had to bathe me when I got home. Like I could barely bend over. Like I could barely move, but I was like super like turtle pace doing everything. Couldn't use my right hand, so everything's left-handed, and it was just like it was rough. But I had to find a way to channel like everything that was going on, and I'm thinking like, how'd I pull this off, right? And it was I was like, all right, well, I was a wrestler, I was ocean lifeguard, learned some life-saving stuff, so that's probably where I got that at. And I was just like this mindset though. I was like, and it's not even like I'm not no David Goggins or Jocko. I'm none of those dudes. You know what I mean? I'm just a guy that works hard and then puts myself in situations that others don't want to do, and that's how I get mentally tough. You know what I mean? And wrestling was one of those sports that did that for me. So I start thinking like all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, I was just well trained. You know what I mean? I was just well trained throughout life. I was like, I just learned some things along the way that compounded to this moment. And it just worked even better that my last name is Blackwell, so Blackwell, well trained, so it kind of was a play on words. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to run with it. And I remember, like, growing up, me and my dad would joke around because I had, like, a wrestle mat in my garage and weight set. We'd, call it, like, well trained and all that, and it's kind of like, something to help keep us motivated. And then in college, I did, like, a facilities and design project, and I called it well trained, had a little logo. So I kind of already had some grassroots stuff, but it was nothing that I ever thought would manifest into anything. And then as I'm going through this recovery, I just start like, I'm gonna make a website. But I got one of my boys, he makes websites, so all I had to do was just make the basic outline of it, and then he souped it up for me. Check, got that. And then it's like, all right, so I still got buddies that are wrestling in college and coaching in college. I was like, I'm just gonna get some shirts and some hats made, and I'm still helping with the kids. So I was like, I'm just gonna start tossing gear out, just get the brand out there for them. And it was pretty good. And like COVID happens, right? So during the middle of this, like we have a little bit of wrestling, but then all of a sudden, like COVID really shuts everything down. So now there's no wrestling, there's no nothing. And I'm like, just had like, all right, you know what I mean? Like we gotta start kind of like figuring out how we're going to do this, but I still have surgeries going on. So like the wrestling, like as much as I was like kind of doing the foundation work, I didn't think I was gonna have anything like what you have here. You know what I mean? I didn't think I was gonna have any of that stuff. It was just like, I'm just gonna build a brand. Sure. I guess I'm just gonna build a brand. And then like from there, like had stomach surgery 4 months after, and then I ended up getting discharged prior to that, or right after that, 2 months after that in June. But yeah, so I don't want to jump all over, but some of the stuff I need to, like, because if it goes down the timeline from like the manifesting of the gym to like, I think this is what really like propelled me to do it, and the timeline that I did was because of my discharge from the Navy. Yeah. And then because the gym got opened in December right after my discharge, so it kind of like
December 2020?
2020,
so
year.
1 year.
To the day.
Wow.
I cut the ribbon, yeah. And it was on December 6th, 2020. I cut the ribbon and like had wrestling for the kids. But it was, yeah, but it was like, I recovered pretty good. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to like ever have anybody look at me and be able to tell anything. I work hard not to show my wounds. You know what I mean? I work hard to stay in shape and all that stuff. I don't want nobody feeling sorry for me. I don't need nobody giving me an attaboy. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like you get shot and you win $1 million. You know what I mean?
No,
like
you got to keep going.
You got to keep going. And it wasn't like my situation with like the discharge from the Navy and all that stuff. It doesn't like change the outcome of anything. I was 27 years old and now I got 6 more holes in my body and I still got to figure out how I'm going to live the rest of my life. Well,
surely you got paid out for that from the Navy, right? Like, I mean,
I got
active shooter comes on base, shoots you up 6 times, like.
It would think
you're gonna take care of them.
You would think. It was so during like my med board process, right? I had signed a med board, so I was getting med boarded for my wrist throughout. Reason why I was in Pensacola, Florida, and the findings had came back that I was getting medically retired for pretty much a wrist fusion that I had sustained during like with training throughout the Navy, right? The first 6 months, and I signed it. And then, like, 6 weeks later, I get shot. So it's just like, it's a cluster of like, okay, well, what do we do, right? And being that I come from a military background, my dad's a retired Navy chief. Chiefs know it all, and they have connections if they don't know. And so he starts reaching out to his network, and he's like, hey, they're trying to discharge Ryan off of a 2018 med board. He's been shot 6 times in 2019. Has a colostomy bag, losing part of his large intestine, completely lost function in his fingers. You know what I mean? Like has like, whatever else you want to call it. But it was just like, no, already signed it, couldn't do anything, and so I was like, instead of just like fighting this uphill battle, we just found it was easier for me to just kind of do what I'm doing now. You know what I mean? You got to fight it from the other side. It was easier for me to fight it from the same team, but it's like now I got to like, it was getting no progress, right? I had admirals, I had the a lot of like high ranking Marines and stuff like that were kind of like on my side, and but it was just like, so like the way the discharge went, I get stomach surgery. They hit me up. So we're discharging you in May. I said, I just got home from the hospital. My right arm don't work, and you guys are talking about doing a nerve graft, taking the nerve out of my leg and putting it in my arm to make my arm work again. And I was like, so I'm not even like medically cleared or anything. Like, all right, we'll extend you to June, but anything you need, just let us know. That's just what it kept saying. Anything you need, just let us know. And I'm like, all right. I was like, well, can I go on terminal? I got 52 and a half days of leave. Can I go on terminal? And, because that would have been going into COVID. My wife lost her job. She was a bartender downtown Pensacola, so she's not working. Though there's one income right now. It's mine. And it would have been nice to have some of that BAH money, that I would have picked up on. Selling the leave days just gives you your base pay. If I take the terminal leave, I get all my money, So they didn't want to. It's cheaper for the Navy for me to just sell my leave days back, because then they don't have to pay my housing and any of that stuff. So they just came up with some bogus thing like, yeah, you can't because you've been on convalescent for 6 months, so you got to sell your leave days back. So I was like, all right, selling them back. And then I go to like get my LES, and I'm looking like, they're like, you're not gonna get paid for 2 months until your VA comes in, and then you'll get back paid.
Yeah,
but
that's a regular how it works.
But what happened was they put down on my LES a separation pay, and so the separation pay, instead of my leaves days or my last month's paycheck, it went down as a separation pay. And so they paid me out, and it's almost like close to the same number, but it's not. Like my leave days and my last month's paycheck was more than what that separation pay is. But I shouldn't have gotten a separation pay because I'm getting medically retired through the IDES program. Even though I got shot in 2019, they're discharging me based on 2018 findings, right? So the IDES program, it's like, I'm good. I'm gonna run this back. Where was that on this? I completely jumped off.
We were talking about, so they were going to pay you.
Okay, yep. So now the separation pay withholds the VA now. So the VA is not going to back pay because they see I got money that I wasn't warranted because I wasn't supposed to get a separation pay. However, I was supposed to get my last month's paycheck and my leave days. They messed it up. Admin messed this up.
You don't say.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now, like, none of that's ever been resolved, right? And then they were like, oh, yeah, you'll be, I'm like, I need, we got to try to make a living and all this stuff. And it's like, my TSGLI. So it's like your SGLI life insurance policy that you carry. It's this blank check you sign. It's up to $400,000 for your family if you pass away, right? And it's a payout though if you get hurt and like you don't die, and it's like you get paid out on this thing. And it's an application you have to fill out. And so I have like the Navy flight doc fill it out, and I get denied. They said my injuries didn't warrant anything. What? Because they only put 1 week and they needed at least like 30 days or something.
30 to 45 days.
Right. And I had a colostomy bag for 4 months, and then I had surgeries after that. So it was like,
basically, they're finding loopholes. That's what, like, trying to find any sort of loopholes to pay you the least amount.
Well, I didn't get paid anything. It was just denied. You know what I mean? So then I was like, all right, well, let me apply for Social Security disability income. I was like, let me do that right now so I can get a little bit of coin rolling in. Denied. Said my injuries didn't warrant that. Then I'm like, all right, is there anything for my wife? You know what I mean? Like, is a home caretaker or like any of this stuff? denied. And so then we're just like, we don't get any of those resources, right? And then it's like the community was helping us, you know what I mean? Like I had the wrestlers and stuff like that, people that we developed on our own, but it was like we weren't getting any of that. And then the icing on the cake is like you get out in June and we're renting a house and the homeowners want it. And now we can't find a place to live because it's COVID and there's nothing available. You know what I mean? So I bought a camper. And I lived in a camper for 8 months. As soon as I got out of the Navy in June, I lived in a camper. And it was parked up in Jay. It's the only place I could get a campground at was up in Jay. And I stayed in that camper, and I was like, we started working towards this thing with the gym. Like I got at one of the dads that kind of got, invested in this stuff and that. And he's like, come October, he's going to own this building. And he said, it's for me to run this wrestling program out of because there's no wrestling, but I'm up in J. And I'm like, all right, well, who's going to renovate this? He said, you are. Roger that. I was like, when can I start? He said, I'll have the keys Sunday. I said, I'll be here Sunday. And so I brought a 20-foot ladder, a Sawzall, and I went in there with a sledgehammer, and we went to work. And we demoed it the whole first week, demoed all the walls, opened it up. I had some buddies that would stop in, throughout the day to kind of help me out and stuff. And it's pretty cool. I got videos on my phone of all this stuff. And it was like I would drive an hour, work that all day till like 9 o'clock at night, drive an hour back. And I just did that every single day. And then it took us 2 weeks to get that rolling. And I ended up rolling the mats down. We had like 20 kids, 30 kids, maybe if that, starting up. And it was just kind of getting the grassroots growing. But it was really cool because like we did a soft opening, like just to kind of get the word out in like November. And then I did the big one on December 6th. That's when I had like some nonprofit groups come. I had Kevin come with his book. I was just trying to like hype it all up. I had like Shark Bite, Navarre, and Where You At Seafood. I had all them dudes up in there. Just like it was awesome. It was all for the kids and everything. And but like that morning though, it was actually how we kicked it off was I have a hero workout I do every December 6th. And so it's something I kind of just made that I do. It really sucks, but you got to do it. Like you need help when you do it. But it's 3 exercises for the 3 that passed away. It's push-ups, pull-ups, and squats. And then it's 8 repetitions of each for the 8 that were injured. And it's 27 minutes. You just rotate that. And it's just a burner because then pull-ups will get you. And at some point, you're going to fail. Somebody's got to hold your feet, you know what I mean, on your pull-ups, or somebody's going to have to talk you through some push-ups or whatever. But that's something we would do we've done it every year so far. And we did that morning, and then that afternoon we cut the ribbon. So on the year, December 6, 2020, we ended up cutting the ribbon, opening up that gym. And then it was like shortly after that, Carly, she ended up getting pregnant with Raina. And then I was like, oh, yeah, we can't be in this camper no more, you know what I mean? We got 3 dogs and us. So I was like, all right, so... Got rid of the camper. COVID was kind of starting to, at least in Florida, it was starting to get back to a little bit of normalcy. Yeah. And so we were able to kind of, believe it or not, I found a spot on Craigslist. And it's like a dope house. It's like 3 houses from the Gulf. And it's like you can see Pensacola Beach like across. It's pretty cool. Like I found it on Craigslist, got a good deal on it. So like God does his thing. You know what I mean? And that's when I started learning like my why, and I keep bringing that up, like my purpose, because it was kind of like I've always had faith and never thought my faith was based on attendance of like attending a church or anything like that, but like the belief of like a higher hand or this or like a universal code where you put something out and you kind of get it back to you or whatever. And it was kind of, I started like experiencing that a little bit, like I started trying to stay positive and doing stuff for the community and doing all this and that, and I started kind of attracting things in my life. And it was like 3 things that had bothered me like the most after getting shot was that I had no kids. I didn't feel like I made an impact. And then you start talking about your legacy. You know what I mean? Like, what's your legacy? So like how I just pretty much solved it all for me was that my impact is the gym, well-trained, and that's how I'm going to give back to the kids and the community and the veterans in any way I can support. And then the legacy is my daughter, and any kids that come after that, So I kind of, now that I got them 2 boxes checked, I mean, it's kind of, it helps me. That's my why, you know what I mean? Like, it's my impact that I'm creating on the world and the legacy you leave behind, when they don't see your face, what's still there. So it was kind of surreal that everything happened so quick, and I'm like a business owner before I'm 30, and it was like 28 years old. I like own my own business, and then here we are now starting the 3rd year, 30, it's going good. And so when I met Eddie was at the tournament they do every year. Golf Breeze had a tournament they called Ryan Blackwell Invitational. So every year they would do it at the high school. First year my dad went, I couldn't go. Second year I went, made some long sleeves for the kids. Third year, same deal, got him some singlets. And then this year we leveled it up and went to UWF and 6 mats down. Just pretty much, I just went, like I said, there ain't no party like a well-trained party, you know. And that's
it was awesome. It was an
and
awesome
we're gonna level it up again. You know what I mean? It's just my thing. If create something that's gonna stick with these kids forever. You know what I mean? And you can shape their life. And it's not based on wins and losses. It's all effort based, right? Attitude and effort. And that's like, let me see that column. You know what I mean? If you got poor attitude, poor effort, and you're still winning, I'm not really too worried about you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just not really conducive to what we're trying to get done over here. But yeah, it was kind of like mental fortitude, right? And like I said, like with the Navy, the patience I learned just sitting there in a role that I didn't want. Now when I coach 4-year-old kids, like I'm good. And the parents come up to me and they're like, how do you do with these 7U kids? I'm like, it's patience, man. I got paid to learn that, you know. I got paid to learn that.
I got one thing out of the Navy. That was some patience.
Yeah, some patience, man. But no, all in all, it was I'm thankful, you know what I mean? And even now, like as we press forward and do more stuff, I want to do more things. And it's cool just seeing how this network is starting to grow. Or like even my story, right? Just a lot of people aren't familiar with it being like the first terrorist attack on U.S. soil since 9/11 by a foreign national. You know, that's there's been attacks. If like nobody will remember this, but the weekend before our shooting, there was a shooting at Pearl Harbor. So that happened like literally the weekend right before our shooting. And there's been other attacks, but as far as a foreign national that just so happened to be from Saudi Arabia, you know what I mean? Same as 20 years ago. That's kind of like, you know, where we're at.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. So it's crazy though. You know, when I went back through like the walkthrough there too, like they did, they have a nice little memorial and everything, and pay their respects to the fallen and the wounded. But it's like some of this stuff, like I'm not even an operator, you know what I mean? I can know when this is not a good setup, you know, like I'm like seeing these exits, and it's like, you got these door watches here, you know. I don't know how the normal function of the day goes, so I'm not in there no more, but I can just see from the layout from the outside looking in, it just still doesn't look like much has changed, you know what I mean? It looks better, new paint, you got some other stuff, but as far as the layout of the schoolhouse, they're still in the same schoolhouse, right? And then it's to say, well, you can't classify them as all bad. I'm not saying they are all bad, but if you want to mitigate the risk of there being a bad one, you know what I mean, then you're going to have
beef up the security a little bit. Yeah.
So it's but then again, you're looking at like where we're at. We're in the Gulf of Mexico. You know what I mean? It's a training command. It's not like anything that's down this way. You know what I mean? Like down here, like these guys are busy down this way. I'm not saying they're not there, but it's all you're learning. You know what I mean? You're learning to like
it doesn't
do a role. But
I think that was proven. It doesn't have to be some big place. It's literally can happen anywhere.
Anywhere. I mean, it's like my biggest thing was like this guy. It could have been so much worse. You know what I mean? And they muster at like 07:30 or something like that every morning. There's like 400. It's called A pool, and it's like there's like 400, 500 U.S. military service members, like the officers going through flight school, in the auditorium mustering. You know, and it's like, that would have been bad. But none of them were there. You know what I mean? Like the CO, like the actual commanding officer. And all those guys, they weren't there, you know, and this dude waits a little bit longer. It's a whole different story, you know, and it's crazy because they find him with 180 rounds, you know, like extended magazines, like 14-round capacities, you know, and it's just a Glock 45 millimeter handgun or 9mm handgun. And, yeah, it's like, but even like to tap back into like when you think about like the discharge and stuff too, the commanding officer of that command in May, you know, gave me my Purple Heart and all that stuff, went through all those ceremonies, and then he died in a plane crash. He was still active duty, so he was due to retire in June, and he was getting out. Well, in May, plane goes down in Alabama somewhere. He passes away, and so now that's like the boss, like the CEO, you know, the CEO of the command, like, he's not there no more. And now it's like it's just a lot going on. You think it's like, oh, this this got dealt this hand with an active shooter terrorist situation, and then you got deceased service members, and you got the CEO passed away. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like, it makes sense why my stuff was so messed up. You know, to me, you know what I'm saying? It's not an excuse, but it just makes sense that it's like, okay.
Well, the military is definitely not a well-oiled machine like I think a lot of civilians think it is. And, you know, when it comes to change of commands, there is definitely a lack of communication. I've seen it over my years. And so if stuff isn't turned over correctly, then a lot of stuff was not going to get fixed. And that is not uncommon. You know, sounds like this new CO came on board, and not a lot was passed to him, or, you know, it wasn't passed to him in a way like, hey, we need to make sure this doesn't happen again. And that's how stuff gets dropped.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, when you think about when they said the guy's part of Al Qaeda and stuff like that, and you start saying like, all right, he's on our base in their uniform, but he's part of those guys. You know, and it's like, we don't need this getting out. Yeah, when you think about that, right?
Oh, that's true too. Oh, there's a lot of stuff that they want to keep swept under the rug.
Yeah, we don't need this getting. Well, and I'm saying that's why you don't hear like you would think. It just blows my mind, and some people are not as willing to talk about what happened, like I am. You know what I mean? But this is part of like what's helped me. Like I talk to help motivate and inspire and uplift others and show them there's opportunities to get better even in the worst of conditions, right? But like it's so it's like a big old shadow, right? Because like COVID happens, it's the perfect opportunity. You sweep this thing up. The news, like this year, like it's 30th anniversary or whatever, nobody hits you up, you know what I mean, and asking you about like this. The Navy don't follow up. Hey, how you doing? You know, if I were to go up to that base, they would have no idea who I am. You know, like, and I don't need people to know who I am at all. You know, like it's fine. I'll keep like. That's why I'm so motivated with the gym, because that's how I'm creating every wrong right, you know, is like with the gym, because everything that like didn't happen like with like the discharge or like the educating the public on the fact that these things can happen, you know what I mean? And they're in Texas too, you know what I mean? They're over here too, like, so you should be kind of a little bit vigilant on a few things, you know, if you're around a military installation or something like that. But it was it's just bizarre to see, yeah, you know what I'm saying, how something that's just so like national attention, right? And then they're more worried about a reporter over in Saudi, you know what I mean, that got murdered than they are about 3 service members that got murdered on their own soil, you know what I mean? Like that's like that's like why it's always been something that kind of fired me up, but it motivates me to like kind of shed light on what had happened, because then it lets kind of those guys' stories be told too. You know, I don't know like everybody's story. I know my story. I know like what I did to kind of get through and harness every bad emotion I was feeling or every negativity, because I played that situation a million times. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And you can only imagine like what you'd want to do. You know, like I just know the dude's like 100 pounds sick, and if I get my hands on him, like I don't need anything. Like I'll be, you know, like I just need to get my hands on him. That was it. And it's just stuff that you just go through your head and everything. And but the one thing is that like nobody knows. You know what I mean? It's just like it's just bizarre.
It's definitely not. I mean, I definitely knew about the shooting, but I didn't know any details.
Yeah.
I didn't see a lot on it. Until I met you.
Yeah.
And then once I heard your story, I was like, holy shit, we got to have this guy on. Get this story out. Mm-hmm. You know, I'll tell you what, brother, like that is a crazy story. Dude, what you just went through. And I can tell, I mean, that's definitely probably one of the biggest traumatic experiences someone can endure. And I can tell you've taken a lot of time and processed this just in the way that you told the story, the details. You're very articulate going through it, you know, and that says a lot about you. That right there is resilient, just to be able to process what happened and be able to tell that story to others. And, you know, one thing, you know, when you said, you know, I'm no Jocko, I'm no whatever Goggins, brother, they're not you. Those dudes have not been shot 6 times. They did not go through what you went through. Okay, don't compare yourself to others like that. You have your own story. You know what I mean? You are probably one of the most resilient people I've met so far. I mean, just going through what you went through, being able to share that story and then seeing what you're doing now on the other side. You know, I watched you, you know, since I met you at that wrestling meet, and then we met up again, I think a week ago at another wrestling meet.
Yep.
And, you know, I was watching you. I watched you with the kids, just how you coach, the patience that you have. Even with my own son, when he was wrestling against one of your guys, you know, my son got his ass whooped, but you came over and you gave him some positive words, gave me some positive words of affirmation about it. That speaks leaps and bounds of your character and who you are. And I want to spread the word, you know, about the what well-trained. Where can people find?
Yeah, so we I have a brick and mortar in Gulf Breeze, Florida, and we train everybody from, I got kids that are 3.5, I mean, all the way up to, like, you know, college guys. And welltrainedelite.com, that's like the website. You go there, it pretty much has everything. Our social media is at welltrainedelite. You can go that. And then so I guess, like, to tie in what's this elite, right? Because like, one is that it's 99 cents on GoDaddy for that domain, welltrainedelite.com. You know, it was $1,700 for welltrained.com. So that's part of the elite, right? But then again, it's an acronym. So every life individually trained enhances, right? So I kind of like made that my mission statement. That's kind of like what we act on, where it's like, it's been like I call individuals, like, where I'll have like a kid come in, I'll do a private with them, and it's something that works towards what they're good at, not what the masses are good at, what they're good at. So like, every life individually trained enhances. So if you give them those little things that make them better, it's going to enhance, you know what I mean, their life and all that stuff too. So I was like, all right, well, this is some pretty good, this stuff that just came to me, right? So I'm like, all right, so that's going to be the mission statement. And so welltrainedelite.com, that's the website. Phone number's on there. Email, everything good to get a hold of me. And then we're looking, like, so like I gotta stay busy, right? Because if I stay busy, I keep winning. And my way of winning is that I have to stay busy because this dude's dead. And if I don't stay busy and I don't keep working hard, he got what he wanted. If I sit there and sulk and I sit there and say, woe is me, and I sit there and think like, you know, poor me, the world's against me, I'm never going to have anything the way it used to be, but it's okay. I just got to keep doing something. You know what I mean? I work hard to not show my wounds. I work hard to, like, kind of get to keep the business in order. I work hard to provide for my family. And it's like, that's, as long as I keep doing that, it was this thing I used to tell myself during recovery, beat yesterday. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like the only easy day was yesterday, but I was like, all right, I'm going to make my own twist on this, like, beat yesterday, right? And it was like, that was what kind of got me through some of the tough times too, you know, like wherever I was just mentally just spent, or I'm doing this or that, it was just like, all right, you gotta beat yesterday, you know. And it's kind of been some of the little stuff. I mean, your mind is so strong, you know what I mean? You just gotta be able to, like you're talking about doing stuff that's uncomfortable, like the podcast or whatever, jiu-jitsu, just starting up or whatnot. It's like, that was definitely, even speaking like this stuff, I used to hate getting in front of the parents and talking with the kids and the kids' parents and all that. But now it's like, it's all good, you know. And even this story, like, the more I tell it, you know what I mean, the easier it is for me to tell it. But then again, it's almost like there's always something that I can, you know, articulate on a little bit more based on my audience too. And you guys are like the perfect audience, because I got like a military personnel, and I got a guy that's into combatives. You know what I mean? So it's kind of the two worlds that I roam anyways. Like, my audience is usually military or wrestlers. So this is like perfect to really get everything out of me, you know?
Yeah. Still Team 38, baby.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, yeah, brother. I mean, the one thing I take away from this interview, man, and, you know, you're an inspiration, and God has a plan for all of us, you know, and he had a plan for you. And I know how hard and frustrating that must have been, you know, when not be able to make it through buds or all that. That wasn't in God's plan.
Mm-mm.
He knew that. He knew exactly what was going to happen and how you would overcome and how you're using that to help others, which is beyond extraordinary.
To me, that's one of my favorite parts. So going through that, the fact that you protected that lady there, super cool. The fact that you took action and got those guys, the other lady and the other guy that got shot, got them out of there, and getting like, took action in crisis. Awesome. But also, like, it's really that afterwards, not being sitting around, you were a victim.
Right.
Like you were a true actual victim and you're not playing victim, right? And you stepped up. And the entrepreneurial side to me is super exciting for you to go, hey, this next level for you. I look forward to talking to you after this about
Definitely.
some like leveling up there. But like that grit, the being able to work hard and the two things you can control, you said, attitude and like effort. And then next level is mentoring other young men, I guess women too, in wrestling, and helping them. To me, it's legacy, it's purpose. It's a bigger mission. Super cool, man. I'm inspired.
Yeah, brother.
you, yeah.
Same here.
No, I'm humbled. You know what I mean? To even like have you guys like even have me on. Like it's been kind of cool. It's just as far as just like what hard work attracts. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't pay off right when you want it to, but it's kind of like this has been my whole life of hard work. And it's just like the coaches that I have moving in down there at the gym, or just like the network I'm building here, especially like. I want to start a foundation, right? The Ryan Blackwell Foundation. I want to be able to provide, like, work with veteran organizations, and do different things. I already do that, but it's like I kind of want to have an umbrella that this stuff already falls under. And then like we do our tournament every year. I wanted to make that like a big thing. So I want to be able to provide athletic events and stuff like that, and then maybe intertwine like the veteran community and then the kids, and kind of like the event we did, but just have more of a veteran presence there. And then being a Purple Heart recipient, I wanted to have the Purple Heart scholarship, Ryan Blackwell scholarship, and it'd be for a dependent of a Purple Heart recipient that's a wrestler, male or female. But that's kind of like my 2023 goals on top of like getting the book rolling too.
So I tell you what. So by the time we air this, we'll have a GoFundMe down in the description. So if someone wants to donate to that, to a scholarship for guys, they can go to the GoFundMe. I'll put a link down in the description for it.
I can work with Eddie, kind of get grassroots rolling on some of this stuff. But
yeah,
no, that's kind of like
awesome.
Just finding ways to just keep leveling up. You know what I mean? It's like that, like with the gym. Like, so I tell everybody, I'm a little bit more like doing a little bit more speaking things now, but because I was working, I had my nose on the grindstone, so I had to build a following almost. You know what I mean? Like that's what Waltron was. We had to build the foundation, the backing to everything. And now it's like, okay, like we did a dinner the other night, had 100 of our family members from the gym come out. I told my story and all that, and it was just cool to see. So it's like, all right, we're building this thing up now. Now let's start launching this and use our network and see kind of where this story can go. It's to me. And it's my story, but if like I heard that, it's like that don't seem real. You know what I mean? It just don't seem like an average, unrated airman. E3 is going to be presented a Navy and Marine Corps Medal for heroism and a Purple Heart. You know what I mean? While sitting at NAS
Well, that's
Pensacola,
because you're not
like,
an average.
Yeah,
uncommon. Yeah, that's what you know what I'm saying. You just put things into perspective, right? And then like. You see yourself in the best version possible, but we always have sometimes a little bit of a doubt with them in the back of our head, right? And I think this scenario I know removed all doubt of like what I'm not capable of doing. You know what I mean? I think that's why I took the leap to do entrepreneurial stuff. I took the leap to like, all right, now I want to kind of start my own foundation and just different things, just kind of just insert myself, or even the public speaking. Like I'll do 27-minute speeches, based on like kind of what had happened to me, and keep it all on that timeline of, everything that transpired for me. And I'm just thankful, humbled, and, I'm just blessed to be able to kind of still breathe. You know what I mean? So
super cool, man.
Yeah.
I super appreciate you coming.
No,
Yeah,
I
man.
appreciate you
It's
guys.
been an honor.
Of it.
Yeah, and then anything like we can do to help.
No
going
doubt.
forward.
Yeah. No, this has been a great experience, and looking forward to working with you guys in the future. Anything.
Heck yeah.
Awesome.
All right, man.
Call it.
Yep. We're out.
All right.
Out.
Peace.